What they heard in the forest that night was more frightening than anything they've ever heard before. In August of 2004, in a campground in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest of Washington, this is known as the Climbers Bivouac on Mount St. Helens, there was a group of campers who were sleeping at the trailhead in their campsites. They were preparing to make the climb up to the popular Monitor Ridge route to the summit. At around 2 a.m., there were 35 campers were awakened to the most horrible high-pitched screams in the woods surrounding the camp. The screams sounded like a wounded animal, and they thought maybe a wounded cougar, but they were not sure. If you've ever heard a cougar scream, it's quite the startling experience. This is what it sounds like. 6 of the campers got up and went to try and determine the source of the noise and the screams. They entered the thick forest to the east of the campground and used flashlights to see. It seemed fairly close to them and was getting closer. By this time, the screams had gone on for 8 to 10 minutes. As they got near the noise, which was coming from approximately 100 to 150 feet away, they smelled a foul smell. It smelled like animal droppings mixed with a terrible wet animal smell. The forest was getting very loud with the movement. This did not appear to be a mountain lion. It sounded much larger, much heavier. Out of fear, they decided that they needed to retreat back to the campground. They didn't want to have to come face to face with this animal. As they were moving away, it sounded like there was more than one, coming from different directions. They carefully moved backwards, afraid to turn their backs on the sounds. They got back to camp and had a general agreement that this may be something unexplainable. The noises continued for another 25 minutes. Then all the screams slowly faded off into the darkness. Then they clearly could hear coyotes howling for another 20 minutes. It was a very strange and weird experience, one climber said. I have never heard anything like this in my life, and I've spent a lot of time in the outdoors. To this day, no one knows what made these sounds that night in Washington. But on the southeast shoulder of this very mountain, Mount St. Helens, less than 5 miles away, there is a narrow gorge that is called, get this, Ape Canyon. It refers to the 1924 story where miners were holed up in this cabin and within this canyon, and one night they were attacked by what they called ape men. That is something to think about.